going to walk you through some of the things that we were working on today. So I am trying to work through some aspects of the financial ties and it's a tangled web. It's a tangled web. Anytime you start looking at occult and influential people that have been involved in crimes, they always say to follow the money and to look at the money streams of what people are involved in, where money's going, that kind of thing, to get an understanding of like where involvement starts and ends. So one of the things that has come up a lot, and by no means am I the first person to evaluate any of these things, are the Duggars LLCs. And there's a lot of them. There are 43. That's how many I found today. Now, I don't know if there's more of them. I used multiple sources to find the LLCs. So, of course, people are already accusing me of stealing this from Reddit, which is simply not true. Today, I used a website called Open Corporates, which allows you to search multiple states if you if you sign in and create an account. So you can put in a like agent's name or an officer's name, and then you can also search by company name. So it's hard when you have people that are in multiple states that have companies in multiple states. So using a search tool that allows you to search multiple states can be super beneficial. Then I used Arkansas, Secretary of State. I also used Benton County, which has properties that are owned by the Duggars, and Washington County. So it was a lot, but it was to try to get an understanding of how connected the family is with their businesses and how this would impact them, and why Josh Duggar's arrest is not just about Josh, but about the whole family. So one of the big things that people have been really upset about is that the boys have not spoken up at all for their sisters. And I have said to you before that the ties are financial in means because they are so interconnected to their father. But it's not just that they're interconnected to their father, they were interconnected with Josh. And they were running businesses with Josh and with their dad. And Josh is and was the golden boy. He was the top son. He was the number one son. And in this cult, the number one son has a high prestige because they take on the heir of the family. And when you have your number one son involved in crime, it trickles down. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because there's so many LLCs, which, by the way, we're not implying that a number of LLCs implies anything illegal at all. At this point, I can't prove any illegal activity. That's not my job. I'm not a forensic accountant. I'm not the IRS. All I'm looking at are the number of LLCs, the properties that they are buying and moving between properties, and then what I'm told by sources and cross-referencing that along all the way. So what I uncovered today was that, and I had some things filled in the blank because I had to ask questions to some of my sources because there were some names on some of the records that I did not recognize nor understand. So one of the things that I noticed right off the bat was that there is a LLC called Western Ridge Financial, and this was actually created in like the fall of 2019. And this is on every single one of Josh Duggar's LLCs. Well, I'll say they're on Anna Duggar's LLCs. So Anna Duggar is the owner of 8 LLCs. 8. And they were all started in the last. In tangent with that is a company called Western Ridge Financial. One of the companies also that is an LLC is called Sole Deo Gloria. Okay, so Anna has a bunch. There are ones called Sole Deo Gloria. There is Raven Glass North, Raven Glass South. There is North Graham Road. They're Lexington Contractors. I mean, there's just ALB Investments, Five Stone Construction, or Five Stone Group, which was his car company. And I should tell you that Travis Story is the attorney that's registered nearly every single one of these. He was also Josh Duggar's attorney for his trial. Jimmy Burns is the tax accountant, and Jimmy Burns is the accountant for Jim Bob Duggar, Deanna Duggar, the Duggar boys, Austin Forsyth, Terry Forsyth, Bob Ballinger. Basically, everyone in this group is using the exact same accountant. They're also using the same attorneys. So they're using Travis Story and his law firm, and Travis Story grew up in the IBLP and is a member of the IBLP, according to people I've talked to. So I don't know if Jimmy Burns is IBLP or not, but I do know that Travis Story is IBLP, or grew up in that world. So they use specific people to help them. Travis Story is an attorney that also is really against church, anything church related. He sues people over the church. He was involved also in defending the lawmakers. This is a mess. So when some of Jim Bob Duggar's friends are in prison right now for taking bribes with Ecclesia College, John Woods, Orrin Paris, and there's one other guy, and all of these are friends with Jim Bob. And Jim Bob was not part of the scheme, was not imprisoned, but also had Paul Caldwell rent a space out at this college as well. And they all were, when they were doing this, when the money was getting shifted between John Woods and Orrin Paris, because he was giving him kickbacks. So basically what John Woods was doing was he was offering grants to Ecclesia College by the government, which Ecclesia College is like a Bible school. It's not that great of a school. It's not because it's a Bible school. It's just not that great of a school. And they were basically offering them grants in the event that they would give them a certain percentage back. And so Orrin was transferring money back through them, but Travis Story's law firm was involved in that. Now, Travis Story's law firm was never indicted. They didn't get in trouble for it. They might not have even known that anything of this was happening. It's just interesting how Travis Story is involved in so much of this stuff that's going on around them. Makes me kind of wonder, like, how ethical he is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So I have been learning a lot about the people around Jim Bob, the people that take kickbacks and bribes. And some people are like, this is what happens all the time. And I'm like, no, like, I don't see this all the time, but that's just me. So I wanted to look into the money aspect of the Duggars to understand, like, why and how, like, one, Josh Duggar paid for his defense, and two, why some of these boys might not actually be talking, and maybe why they don't defend their sisters. And the truth is that in the Duggar household, the girls don't matter and the boys do. And if you are a girl, you are not involved in the family business. And if you are a girl and you have a husband, your husband might be involved. Like Austin is very deep into this. So if you were hoping that Austin and Joy were going to leave, I just don't see this happening. Austin's business is co-owned by Ross Little, who is a multi-millionaire from Louisiana, who was a part of the Republican National Committee. He actually was at the 2016 elections. He was one of the committee chairs of that election. And when they do the national campaign, whatever the conferences that they do at the elections where all the Republicans meet, he was a part of that. He was in that world for over 30 years, and he has moved to Arkansas, and his wife was actually a delegate alternate for the 2020 elections. So he's very well connected in the Republican Party, and he's also very intertwined with this group of people, and he co-owns Austin's business with him. So So if you are wondering if Austin's going to break free, probably not, because his business is also co-owned by Bob Ballinger, who is a Arkansas state representative, and he also recently voted for adding creationism to be taught in schools because they believe that the world is only 6,000 years old. And Bob Ballinger is Austin Forsythe's brother-in-law. He is married to Austin Forsythe's sister, and they are also in the IBLP. So connecting the dots here. So if you're wondering if Austin and Joy are going to break free, probably not, because Austin's ties are very connected, and Ross Little is not only helping Austin, but he's also helping the Duggars. So I asked a source yesterday, like, do you think that Austin and Joy will actually exit? And they said they would love Joy to, but there's absolutely no way that Austin will, because he's so deep into this. Not to mention, my sources have told me that Austin is a very, very alpha patriarch. So he's the kind of guy that really takes being a patriarch seriously. So if you're hoping that she has like a soft, cuddly teddy bear of a husband, you would be probably inaccurate on that. So Austin is intertwined. His business is called Red Oaks Homes. And again, it is owned by Ross Little, Bob Ballinger, and him. Okay. He also has a second business, which is AFMJ, and that was the company that he had started years ago. It's now defunct, and he's doing the most work right now with Red Oaks Homes. And if I'm being honest, that is a very busy company. They have built and sold a lot of properties. In fact, they filed 5 easements today and did a warranty deed. So Austin is a busy guy, but he's also very deeply entrenched in the cult. So interestingly, Amy has used Jimmy Burns too as a tax person. Okay, so why I'm not on YouTube is because I can't use my phone for YouTube, and I just haven't wanted to be on YouTube. So I'll be back on YouTube maybe tomorrow, but for sure next week. I'm literally just taking a break from YouTube. Okay, so I'm going to stay on this topic. I'm not going to go on to creationism or talk about anything else. So then, as we listen to everything that's been happening with Austin Forsythe, I start looking at the businesses that are owned by the Duggars, and I uncover 43 LLCs. Now, some of these LLCs are dissolved and no longer exist. Some are revoked, some just don't exist. Most of them are still in good standing, and they are split between several of the Duggars. So Anna Duggar has 8. Jim Bob Duggar has, I don't even know, 10. Jeremiah Duggar has like 6 or 7. Jedediah has 2. Jason Duggar has just the 1. Josiah has 1. Austin Forsythe has 3. Michelle Duggar has a couple, but Michelle's and Jim Bob's are overlapping. So there's a lot of property that is getting moved around, and then the Duggars have all these different businesses. So they have Duggar Properties LLC, they have Duggar Aviation, they have Good Neighbor Realty, they have Warehouse LLC, they have Commercial Something LLC. Basically, all these LLCs do is hold money and assets. So they use the different LLCs to hold property or to hold money. And the different LLCs will often change hands. So one LLC, Duggar Properties, might move things to Sole Deo Gloria, which is owned by Josh Duggar. So let's start at how we get to Josh Duggar and his involvement in all of this. So all of the guys are currently working in this project right now in Bella Vista, Arkansas, which is a area in Northwest Arkansas. I don't think it's very far from Springdale. They have a lot of vacant land, and there's a lot of housing developments there. And the Duggars have purchased property there, and the property has then been bought by Mr. Little. So basically what's happening is they have property, the property gets purchased by Mr. Little, Ross Little, and he then is helping fund the building for Buildmaster Construction, or for Dwayne Swanson, so, or for Josiah, or for Austin. So all of them are building houses, and they're all using Ross Little as their funding source, because these guys don't like to use loans. So they will take and borrow money from each other like it's going out of style. They will never take out loans. They do not take out loans. They don't like being involved at all with the government. So Ross Little is kind of funding all of these different people. And so what he's doing is he helps fund building the houses, and then the houses are sold, and then they split the proceeds. So they are effectively building houses. So Josh Duggar has sold houses in the same development, and then Josiah is in the same development, Joseph, Jeremiah, Jed, they're all in the same area. They're all doing the same thing, okay? And then Jason is building the houses, or Dwayne Swanson, or Austin, okay? Then once those guys are done building the houses, Joseph, Jeremiah, and Jim Bob are selling them. Do you see how that works? So there's nothing inherently illegal about this that I know of. When I was calling it a scheme just means it's like a complex strategy to get to a certain goal, right? So the goal is to sell the new house, right? So they've developed a scheme where they buy the property, then Ross funds it, and then they build it, and then Joseph and Jim Bob sell it. There's nothing inherently illegal about that. It's just that's what you would call a scheme. It's just, there could be illegal activity in there if they were, say, not allowing other people to bid on the property, or if they're only selling the homes to people that know them, or that kind of thing. Like, there could be different things that are happening here, but that's how we know this, okay? So they're basically all working together to build, sell, flip houses, okay? They're building new home construction. And they're basically building, like, I would say, like, larger starter homes, not like big houses, maybe like 2,000 square feet, 3-4 bedrooms, not like mansions, just your typical average house. Pricing on the houses are like $300 to $450 for the prices. And they're basic homes. They're nothing like out of this park. So Josh is involved in all of this. So Josh has all these different LLCs, and Anna's on all of them, but Josh is not on any of them, because Josh goes by someone named Western Ridge Financial. So weird, right? So around the time that Josh Duggar was under investigation, he took his name off of all of these companies. He also took his name off companies that he already owned, and then he started new companies, and his name is nowhere on the company at all. It's only in Anna's name. And then there's this anonymous third-party LLC called Western Ridge Financial. It's based out of Wyoming. And the only reason I know that Anna Duggar is a member is because on one of the sales, she is listed as both a member of Western Ridge Financial and North Graham Road. So Anna Duggar and Josh Duggar are Western Ridge Financial. And I'm assuming it's just a way to hide Josh's name. So, because Josh doesn't want his name on anything, because he seems to think that he's probably not going to have to pay anything and all of his fines, whatever. So what they had done with the property, to just explain this to you, is Jim Bob had given them one lot, and the house had, I don't even know how many acres on it. And then they subdivided the property into different, like, tracks. So the house was on one track, there was another track in the middle, and then there was a track on the back and on the side of the road. And they basically divided it into 3 separate lots. For the third lot that was on the side of the road, they then sold that to a company called North Graham Road. Got it? North Graham Road is an LLC. And the reason why it's North Graham Road is because it's on North Graham Road. North Graham Road LLC's address is John David's Medic Corp Company. Weird. gifting. Oh, okay, I'll tell you that in a second. So Medic Corp Company's address is on North Graham Roads, LLC. And Joseph Schumacher is the registered agent. Joseph Schumacher is a trusted friend of the Duggars. And John David is an officer of the company. And Anna Duggar is a member. So they sell a piece of property to Medic Corp's address. And then Medic Corp pays for the property with a $200,000 mortgage that's not with a bank. So the mortgage is just between the two of them. I'm not even shitting you. So the mortgage is for $200,000 that North Graham takes to buy the property, and the property mortgage is between the two. So my guess here is that they did this to avoid paying taxes and using the proceeds of that into a mortgage. But Jim Bob was telling his kids that Josh paid for his attorneys himself. Okay? And I think he is, it is so intertwined. Yeah. John David is on, and by the way, Soli Deo Gloria, the company that sold the house to Jim Bob's friends, the one that Josh, the $450,000 that they sold this fall, John David is the vice president of that company. So that company is owned by Anna, Josh, and John David. So John David's been doing business with the boy that he went up on TLC saying, I don't want to be like my brother anymore. He didn't want to be like his brother anymore, but he had no problem being on Soli Deo Gloria's company with his brother as the vice president. Okay. And the other company that changes hands with him, North Graham Road, is also John David's company with Anna. Anna has to sign for all of this. So that happens in October. Jim Bob, in an attempt to placate his kids in December, tells them all that Josh paid for his attorneys himself. I believe that he used proceeds of the sales of these homes that were gifted to him from Jim Bob. So sure, Josh paid for it himself from a home that his dad gave him. Do you like that mental gymnastics? Okay. And because Josh is so in the mix with all of his brothers, the brothers are all working together. And so right before Josh is going on trial, some of the younger brothers are allegedly starting to freak out about the assets that they have. So according to a source that I spoke to, at least 2 of the brothers or 3 of the brothers have really large bank accounts. If you're wondering if the boys are getting preferential treatment compared to the girls, your answer would be yes. Because they're all in business with their dad, they get way more money than their siblings, and the girls are ones that are kind of left out in the dust. You know, the weird thing in all of this is that Jessa and Ben don't have a single company in their name. Ben is at no way at all involved in any of this. And I was told that Ben doesn't want to do this kind of work. Like, he feels like he's above it. So Ben is kind of missing out on the money making scheme. Maybe he doesn't want to be involved in it. I don't know. Yes, a flow chart would be helpful. But the boys have very large bank accounts. And so apparently, like a couple weeks before his trial, they're all like freaking out and starting to like speak very loudly to people around them about how they're going to start hiding their money. if Josh is convicted, allegedly. So my theory this whole time, they're all pastors. Like they're literally all pastors. They all have nonprofits too, which are all shields. By the way, MediCorp's website is suddenly down today. Their website doesn't exist anymore. Weird. It's really weird that last week we sort of talked about what this company was doing and brought up their taxes, and then this week their website doesn't exist anymore. It's so weird. They do depend on JB because the money came from the show, and so how they were funding this business with the flipping was through the show. Okay. They would get the money from the show, and the money would then get invested into the properties, and JB would buy properties, and the boys were given money, and that's how Jason started his flipping business. And some of the boys were given money. I don't know if some of the girls. I was basically told that after Jill publicly acknowledged and went public about how she wasn't paid, there was they believed a lot of public pressure on the Duggars at that point. And so at that point, they think that Jim, Bob, and Michelle might have given some of the kids some money. So Jason used money to start a construction business. James works for Jason, and Jeremiah has a construction business, but I don't think Jeremiah actually builds houses. So you're having trouble believing all of this, except it's literally in the records. So I'm sorry. Like, I'll be doing probably a video maybe tomorrow or the next day or Monday where I'll go through all of the records, but it's online. Like, I wouldn't be telling you guys this if it wasn't in records. Like, the records from the sale from Solio de Gloria are on October 1st and October 5th. Then Mr. Josiah sold properties to Ross Little in July and in September. Jeremiah sold him a property in September. Joseph has 3 houses listed. 2 of them are Ross Little's, 1 is Dwayne Swanson's. Like, all of this is public record. Boys are all sitting on a ton of cash, I guess, and are freaking out because their companies are intermingling with Josh. And because of that, they're all involved in the same thing. So here's what will happen, and here's kind of the situation that could happen because of Josh's conviction. So he has what's called a forfeiture allegation, and he has fines. And in the very final page of his indictment, it goes through like what will happen if he's convicted. And it explains that he will be, any money that he has that he attempts to hide will be found. And if they don't find it, they will charge him for it and he will pay it. So it doesn't matter if he puts things in Anna's name because they're married, and in the state of Arkansas, it's joint ownership. So it's not that he owns a percentage of it, it's what's theirs is theirs. It's like they don't have 50% ownership for. So he has to pay whatever, even if he tries to hide it, even if his brothers try to hide it, they have to pay it. If he does hide it, though, and he attempts to evade it, they can actually add additional charges for that, and he could get more time. And if his brothers try to obstruct that, you can get obstruction of justice charges. There's a lot that could happen if you're trying to hide money from the federal government. Like, you don't want to get into a mix. Now, here's the other thing that can happen. In the state of Arkansas, what's his is hers. So they don't get to, just because it's in Anna's name, they're married. Okay? So it's 100% theirs. So he doesn't get to just say it's in Anna's name to avoid it. No. Anna's his wife. It's his property is too. Okay. I've already looked into this. I wouldn't report this if I was lying. I wouldn't report this if I hadn't looked into this. What can also happen is while they're looking at all of these different companies, the IRS could maybe get a call and be like, yo, do you know what's going on with all these LLCs? I asked someone in the know if they thought that Jim Bob could be involved in tax evasion, money laundering, anything of the sort. And a source closely connected to them said, possibly. Another source told me that Jim Bob Duggar says and brags to his friends that his tax accountant, Jimmy Burns, keeps him out of jail, allegedly. So, I would not be surprised if at some point the IRS starts looking into their business dealings. And if you remember, one of the biggest sticking points for Jim Bob in his most recent election was that he did not want to pay taxes. Okay, he was really mad about taxes. I think, he doesn't like to pay taxes. There's a lot of things that can happen with tax evasion, but also another aspect that they could look into is the flipping of properties back and forth. So one of my sources told me this today. So because the show is gone, Jim Bob does not have the same stream of money coming in, and he's not cash, like he's more cash poor than he used to be. And he will sometimes use his kids to get access to money that he can't get because he doesn't want to use a bank. And so he'll tell them, you can have this property, I'll take your money, and I'll pay you back. So, because he doesn't have the same kind of revenue streams coming in, they're having a harder time funding all of their properties, which is again why Ross Little is helping. Because before, when they had the revenue from the show, they didn't have to rely on outside sources to help them fund projects, and now Ross Little is helping with all of that. They lost about $1 million a year with Counting On gone, and the property business has never been as lucrative as what they get in this business. So Jim Bob owns properties, and he has some tenants where he gets rental income. He also has like cell towers that he rents, so he gets some rental from that. But he's losing all of that income because the show is gone. So he doesn't have that like excess of $850 to $1 million of just money to run these property deals. So now they've got new friends involved, and Jim Bob sometimes uses his kids and allegedly gets loans from them because he doesn't want to take out loans. So yeah, the children are his subordinates. So another interesting thing is that Joseph Duggar, his dad, Jeremiah, and Jedediah all have a real estate company called Good Neighbor Realty. Now, this company was owned originally by Mary Duggar. It is not registered with the state of Arkansas as a business. It is registered with the Arkansas Real Estate Commission, but it's not registered as an LLC. So I don't know how the money is actually being, like how the money that they make, where that's going to. I don't know if they're using it as doing business as. I don't know if they're running it through a different LLC. And then something super interesting about this is that Joseph Duggar is the principal broker. So I don't know if you know anything about real estate, But for an agency to exist, you have to have a principal broker, and the broker is basically the agent that has done excess training and education, which enables them to actually facilitate all of the real estate deals. They can then supervise all of the agents, and they are the ones that make they sign off on all of the sales. A broker is at the top, and then all of the agents are below them. So Joseph is the principal broker, and Jim Bob, Jeremiah, and Jedediah are his agents. How is Jim Bob not actually a broker at this point? So he's the principal broker. So he's screwed too. And an unhealthy obsession. I actually just cover this cult. I don't know if that means that I'm reporting on this. I'm sorry if you think that that's an unhealthy obsession. This is actually not a hobby for me. This is a job. And I try to get out of this rabbit hole every day, and then there is more stuff that pops up. And I believe, it's my opinion, that the Duggar family is involved in illegal activity. And it's my opinion that the reason why people are scared of Jim Bob is because he is kind of like a mob boss of sorts. Okay? People are terrified of Jim Bob. Terrified. The reason why people don't go on the record with me is because they are terrified of him. They are afraid that their cars will be tampered with. They are afraid that they will get threatening messages. They are afraid they will be stalked. They are afraid they will be killed. The Duggars are part of a larger criminal organization, which is the IBLP. Again, my opinion, but it's starting to look like it's a very carefully crafted criminal organization. Just because somebody hasn't been arrested doesn't mean that crimes aren't happening. And obviously, this is the kind of stuff that goes underneath the radar a lot, especially in these kinds of communities, because they exist in a world where they don't really live on the radar.